Alright guys, this is exciting. My very first painting tutorial. So here we go. It's going to be in fast effect. The videos will be split to fit. And here's some awesome weird music to start it off. Alright, here we go. I'm going to start pretty much, right from the beginning and go through the whole steps. So starting here with the sprue. I'm doing an Ork Nob, as you can see. I use Army Painter plastic snips. And they make a great starter set that you can buy. I would go ahead and invest in one of those. It comes with X-Acto blade, the snips that you see there, and then some of their plastic glue that I use as well. Alright. Next here what I'm doing is I'm just demolding it. There's mold lines along the edge, as you can see there. So just take the side of your X-Acto blade and just give them a scrape to get those mold lines off. It's really going to make a difference in the end. Take your time with it, make sure you get them all. And also remember, be careful when you're using X-Acto blade. If you're a younger gamer out there, get an adult's help on this as well. As you can see there, you always want to make sure that you trim up all pieces of the model. Alright, also I'm going to take my pin vise here and I'm going to bore out the barrel of the gun here. You want to do this just for a more realistic effect, so it isn't just flat on the surface. And that makes a pretty big difference. Looks a lot nicer. Alright, now I'm going to show you a little technique for what I'm going to do to you want a dry fit. Make sure it fits on there alright. And I found just some bits from your bits drawer, just to add some character to the base. Now you want to take a piece of cardboard here. What I'm going to do is make a piece of sheet metal and just tear off the two outer layers so you get that nice wavy centerpiece there. So just rip off the outer layers and then take and just clean it up so you get a nice piece of find the best part of it. You can see there I'm just trimming it up because you want to get those nice waves in there. You want to be able to see those. So just get it nice and clean. There we go. And then I'm going to just take and trim it down to size and get it so it's not, you don't want a humongous piece on the base. I'm just going to jam it under his foot there. So I'm going to take and just snip off part of that plastic bar that's used to hold him in the base and trim that up a little bit. So that's nice and set there. And then I'm going to take and trim this up and give it some character. Trim it down to size. Again, be careful when you're using sharp tools. Make sure that the creases are nice in it. And then I'm just taking my plastic snips and snipping off tidbits, just weird shapes and chunks out of it to make it look like it's been sitting around in the Ork camp for a while. Dry fit it. Make sure it works out right. Slide that in. See how you're going to want to set it. And then I'm using plastic glue here to speed up the process of gluing down the cardboard there. You want to make sure you run some in there as well to really get a good hold so your model doesn't come off. Hold them up and set them down, and just hold them for a second. Make sure to get a good bond going. That's that for the metal piece, or what will be the metal piece. Then I'm going to take the little dagger that I have and I'm going to cut off the tip of it here to make it look like it's sticking into the base, like it's sticking in the ground. So I just cut a slant off there, a little bit of glue on the end, and that's that's some other ideas you can use for bits as well. There I had the rocket that I thought about using, but I didn't. So just a little bit of glue on the end, and stick it to the base. just for some added character to the base, so it ain't just plain. Alright, now you want to go ahead and, normally I wouldn't put the head and arms on, but on this model it's pretty spread out, so it shouldn't be too hard to paint around it. So I went ahead and added the arms and the head here. Sorry for being out of cam a little bit. There you go. That's our orc that we're going to be painting. Alright, I use a helping hand normally on this. Later on, I do take the helping hand out because it seemed a little bit hard to paint with. But there I'm scraping off some glue, some excess glue. You want to make sure that, you know, if you have any glue that came out of the edges, stuff like that, go ahead and trim that up and shave that off now while before you start putting any paint down. If anyone's got any ideas for oh, here's a wet palette. I used just regular sponge in a plastic tray with wax paper on top. And if anyone's got any ideas for ways to hold a camera, as you can see here, I just had the camera in between me and the model directly and just reached around with my hands to paint. If anyone knows of a good place to get a good camera holder, let me know. It'd be great, especially you people who make tutorials out there. Here I'm just using Game Color Viello's Negro Black. Of course I water all my paints down with thinner, and what I'm doing here is just giving it a base coat and a primer coat all around. It's pretty watered down, so you want to continue to move it and pull it out of the creases, but you want to make sure to get every part of the model here. I used the black just because it's nice for harder to reach spaces or something that you can't get. With having the black in there, you can leave that area and it will just end up looking like shading, whereas if you did it primed in white or base coated in white, you have to you can't really, it doesn't give you any leniency that way. Yep, and as you can see here, you just want to make sure that you're getting all spots, get everything underneath everything and all around. You don't want to miss anything. Just double checking, and then you're just gonna want to add a first layer of black to the piece of cardboard that we're gonna use for sheet metal. Don't have that as watered down. You don't want to saturate the cardboard, otherwise it's gonna warp it out of shape, and then it'll take away those nice creases and bends. So just be careful with that. And then I'm just going to double check everything, and then you want to leave it to dry for a little bit before you come back and add some more paint. And when I left it to sit to dry, I went ahead and came back and did a thinner black, yet added more thinner to the black, and did kind of a wash to it just to make sure that all the crevices got painted. Now you can see I moved it just to the top of onto the top of paint top there to help paint. It seems like it was a little bit easier with how the camera was. For first layer green, I'm using dark green from Viello, and watered down, of course, probably 1 part paint to 1 part thinner. And I'm just going to go ahead and give everything a good coat, a good layer of green as far as the skin goes. Now since it's thinned out so much, you want to make sure that you pull it out of the recesses. You don't want it to just all pool down in there, so keep kind of moving the paint around. Instead of like so much painting, you're kind of prodding the paint around. And the reason I'm doing the skin first is when you're doing painting and doing it all by hand, you always want to go from the bottom layer up, closest to the body. So of course the closest thing to the body is the bare skin. So that's why I'm doing the skin first, because that way you're gonna, you can be a little bit more messy with it and touch other spots because you haven't even went to paint that yet. So it works out a little better if you do it in layers and go from the body up. Now when you're using thinned out paints here, you can see I'm just going back and forth pretty much. By the time I get one coat onto one arm, I can pretty much go back to the other arm and add another coat of paint, and it's dry. I like doing thin layers of paint. I think it works out a lot better instead of just doing a thick coat of paint. So again, I'm moving it around to keep it out of the recesses and keep it up onto the higher areas there. Make sure to get all the areas. Now, once I start getting to the third coat of paint here, a lot of times I'll start concentrating towards the top of my models. I like to do my models highlights from considering that the sun is hitting them from right above them, instead of I know a lot of painters like to do their highlights from all over. I like to concentrate mine straight from above, because most of mine are going to be tabletop miniatures. I like to play the game. So most of mine are going to be seen from the top half anyways. So if the highlights are from the top, it looks nice. Alright, and then just setting it there to dry. And now I'm starting to get to the third coat, where I'm going to concentrate more on the top, the upper parts of the skin here. Now these skin coats will get highlights in the wash, but I still by making having a little more color on the top areas of those arms, it will help the wash to give depth. I'm doing the face. You want to do a nice coat on that on the face as well. I like to keep it nice and thin on the face, because of detail. You don't want to fill in the detail. I also try to avoid the eye sockets. Since the eye sockets on this orc were so far in, I really just avoided them altogether and left them pretty much black. When I do the wash, it'll give a little bit of green down in there, but it won't brighten it up as much. So it'll give it good depth. Now, as you can see here, I'm going and doing a second layer, or a second coat. You want to make sure to get all the areas there as well, like under the chin. I put a little bit of paint down there as well, and I'm really moving it out of those recesses and making sure that it doesn't pull down into the detail work. You pay so much for these models, you don't want the detail work just to get filled in with paint. And here, just setting it down there to dry for a bit. Now, as you can see here, I'm starting to concentrate a lot of the color onto the upper part of his head, where the sun would be hitting, and I keep going back and I'm touching on the arms and the upper parts as well, making sure they got a good even coat of paint on the top of them. Now my paint tutorials I'm using a standard brush, just to let you guys know what I'm using from Citadel. I like it. It's got a fairly nice point to it, fairly nice give back, and it holds a decent amount of paint. Now normally when I paint my models, I go for tabletop kind of standard. I do like to, I do my tabletop miniatures a little bit, maybe put a little bit more work into them than I really need to. You could obviously slow a lot or quicken a lot of this up, but if you're gonna put the work into them, you might as well have them look really nice. So I'm gonna call my tutorials JamesClass, because it's not really, I wouldn't call it, this isn't my, this isn't how I would paint it for a competition. I would do more layering and stuff like that, but this is how my end models would look for my regular army. Now normally what I would do is, if I was doing a big unit of these guys, I would get all the basic work done, get 3 colors onto them, make sure that they got a good